In T-minus 3, 2, 1, we begin the fun. Touring our way through the NBA from that big apple to the place by the bay. Is your mind buckled in? Because it's time to begin. Sekou and his friends are doing it again. The Hang Time Podcast is the spot, so sit back, relax, because the show's about to drop.
Welcome into the Hang Time Podcast. I'm your host, Sekou Smith, here in Atlanta, safe at home, like I hope all of you are during this global pandemic, dealing with the coronavirus. We have some interesting perspectives on this edition of the Hang Time Podcast, how this stoppage in play and in basically everything has come to a standstill, how it's affecting people in the basketball world, maybe on the other side of the world. Bryce Cotton, NBL MVP and champion for the Perth Wildcats, joined us on this podcast. And also David Gale, a coach in Germany with some deep NBA experience, deep grassroots basketball experience, also joins us to talk about how this has affected domestic and foreign basketball leagues with this stoppage in play of sports all around the world. So I hope you enjoy it. It's very informative. You get some perspectives from places other than where we are here in the United States. So it's really a detailed conversation about the coronavirus, its impact on the world and on the game of basketball in particular, from Bryce Cotton first and Coach David Gale second. Another edition of the Hang Time Podcast here under very different circumstances than we're used to. Sekou Smith here in Atlanta, and joined via a very solid, hopefully, connection through the web by Bryce Cotton, who's in Australia, NBL champion and MVP, and somebody who's being impacted by this global pandemic on a worldwide level. Bryce, thanks for joining us. And man, take me through just what the initial experience was once we all found out about this virus spreading the way it did, and how that affected your season as it was, going on.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was crazy, man, unprecedented. At first, we're going through the tail end of the regular season. You hear about it in China, and then you hear Korea, and it's almost like it's slowly migrating to where you're at. And you fast forward to our final series. We played best of five series, and we were getting ready to prepare for game 4, I believe it was, and stuff had gotten so out of hand that they ended up canceling the rest of the series. It was crazy because I want to say there was a flight actually where we took off to Sydney. We played game 1, and when we got back, we found out we were on the plane with somebody that actually had a confirmed case of coronavirus. So that was a bit of a scare right there. And but they determined nobody was, I guess, high risk, because I guess it wasn't too common to catch it over the plane. But things just really started going downhill from there. But it's unfortunate we didn't get to, get that third win, even though they awarded us the champs. It's just crazy for how our season ended like this. But I think we were one of the last basketball leagues actually to still be playing though before we stopped.
Right. You got an interesting perspective, obviously, having played in the NBA and now being a champion and MVP, as I mentioned, in Australia. What was your thought when you first heard about the NBA shutdown? That had to come as a stunner. I was on the air. I was working that night. I went into the studio at NBA TV, and we heard about Rudy Gobert coming off the floor and that they had held things up. And we were kind of looking at each other like, uh-oh, what's going on? Before the night was out, the season was suspended. Did that come as a huge shocker in Australia as it did here?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, like you said, right, wrong, and indifferent, I guess people were probably paying attention to the virus in different ways. But once we saw, at least for us, okay, the NBA is shutting down because of this, it's got to be serious, because you've never heard of, any, professional league, of that magnitude shutting down due to some form of a flu or something of that sort. So we knew it was for real at that point. We probably should have, taken it a little bit more serious before, but considering when the NBA did that, we figured it was probably only a matter of time before everybody else followed suit.
People, I don't know if people understand the way the basketball ecosystem works, the way the structure is in Europe and other parts of the world compared to the NBA season and all that. What has this stoppage done to your basketball calendar, just how you function as a professional basketball player every year? Like, how has this changed the course of what you would be doing at this time? Say, so the championship's over, say you win a championship, that's done. Your next normal step would have been what?
Around this time, because in Australia, like you said, with the season being done, we finish in March. You still got the opportunity, if this is, a regular season or whatever, you get to go finish the rest of the season on a European team or somewhere of that sort. So you still got somewhere to pick up another contract for another, 6 to 8 weeks. And it definitely does affect your pockets a little bit. But I think playing in the NBL, trying to find the silver lining, there's a little bit of a bright side. We pretty much got to play our entire season, so that didn't affect us to the same extent it has done other leagues. But, being able to double dip, once the season's done, it's definitely affected that.
Yeah. So for you, being a kid who's born and raised in Tucson and then playing at Providence, you know how the basketball system works, and just, what the game means to guys, what it means to put in the work that you always put in. Has this allowed you, I guess, in some strange way, has this been an opportunity maybe to step away from that for a time being and be more engaged at the house with family and, and all that sort of thing? And how has this changed for you in terms of just lifestyle, in terms of being able to focus on things you wouldn't normally focus on? I was laughing to my wife. I'm usually riding into the playoffs, and I've been covering the NBA for almost 20 years. I'm riding into the playoffs, going into my normal routine in the spring, and instead we've been cleaning out the basement, working in the yard. So, just the nuts and bolts of your day clearly must have changed dramatically.
Yeah, man, it really has, but it's good though, because for me, I got a 4-month-old daughter, and during the season sometimes you may be gone for 4 or 5 days because of a road trip or something of that sort. So now when she's starting to get her personality and find her voice and start to laugh and all that stuff now, it's good that we all got to be home by default. So I get to spend all the time with her and do all the dad stuff and help out now and change diapers and stuff, because I definitely wasn't doing too much of that during the season. But I'm playing catch up now. But it's it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, no question. So from a strictly basketball perspective, you dealt in the NBA, and then you obviously have played at an extremely high level in the NBL, not just on a team, but starring, MVP and a champion. How's that journey been for you at 27 years old to have reached the level you've reached in the NBL?
It's amazing, man. Honestly, I had a brief stint in the NBA and able to make that, but I felt like, running into somewhat of a numbers game or really learning, what the politics of basketball can be with my time in the NBA. I just really grew to appreciate being somewhere that wanted me and just was going to let me play my game full out. And it's just been, I can't even put it into words. I've been out here 3.5 seasons, and won 3 championships, 2 finals MVPs, 2 league MVPs. Like, it's crazy. And, I've filed for citizenship, so I could potentially get citizenship. And I've heard of guys playing that have been Americans and got citizenship out here who played in the NBL, and they went on to play in the Olympics for Australia. So just knowing that that's even a possibility for me, just based off of, basically 3 really good seasons, it's crazy. Everything happens for a reason, and the way I look at it, I just control what I can control. And if this is where I'm playing at, then it's my job and my responsibility to play at the highest level that I can while I'm here.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm always talking to guys about the fact that, the NBA is the best league in the world. Everybody understands it, but there's so much basketball going on around the world. And if you haven't ever been somewhere else to see the game and to understand how important the game is to some people, you wouldn't appreciate it. Like, I wonder what your appreciation level was for the basketball and fans and the way they embraced it once you got to Australia. I wonder what that looked like to you coming from the States for the first time to see it. Like, was it a kind of a hair-raising experience just to realize, man, you can play this game on the other side of the world and get lost in it, in a good way, and get totally caught up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I don't want to say it was a shock or anything, because I came over here, not really knowing what to expect. In my brief time when I was playing with Utah, I remember Dante Exum and Joe Ingles. They had told me a little bit about Australia, and there was a league, professional league over there, but they didn't go into too much detail over that. But lo and behold, a few years later, once I found myself heading out that way, I just went over there with an open mind. But we have a great fan base over here, man. And our home games fit like 12, 13,000 fans, and it's pretty much packed out every game. So the energy there, it's a feeling I can't even describe, especially once you get rolling and, it seems like you can't miss that night. The crowd is just going crazy. So it's a really fun environment to play in, and it makes it that much better that, we're continuing a winning culture over here in front of these fans. So it's definitely fun and live for sure.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you were a NBA D-League all-rookie selection, first team in 2015. Like you mentioned, you've been on NBA teams and had that experience. Who was it, or what was it that led you to Australia in the first place? What was the thing that in your mind said, you know what, let me try this, let me get off this one track, get on this other one, and see where it takes me?
All right, so making a long story short, at the beginning of this 2016 basketball season, I played for Anadolu Efes, which was in Turkey, a EuroLeague team at the time. And I had to go home in December for a couple of days because there was like family emergencies and stuff going on. So when I went home, there was like a lot of terrorist stuff happening in Turkey. And like a bomb had went off maybe 20 or 25 minutes from my apartment where I lived, followed by a lot of gunfire. And so when I was home and I saw it on the news and found out where it was, I said, okay, I'm not going back there because, you being that far away from home, the last thing you want to be worried about is safety. Right. So my agent presented me with two offers, basically. He said, okay, we waited for maybe 2-3 weeks, came up with some offers, and he said I can either go to Russia to finish out the season, or he said I can go to Australia. And at that time, because I wasn't really enjoying my European experience anyway, I didn't want to go back to Europe. So I said, I'll do the Australia thing. And he had told me, he said that team was in, I think, second to last place at the time. So he said, you'll probably only be there 6 weeks. Team's not going to make the playoffs. And you can just have an early off season and, mentally regroup for the next year. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, send me there. And then somehow, some way, we ended up not only making the playoffs, we won the championship that year. That's when I got my first Finals MVP, and I fell in love with the game all over again. And it was like, this is, it just felt great to know, like, okay, here's a team that's really just letting me be me, and the fans love me, and the team, like, I got along with the team so well. And I just kept coming back after that ever since. And, this wasn't really something that I had in my plans, but it just kind of happened by chance. And it's just been blessing after blessing ever since then.
Yeah. Now, I know guys keep a lot of different contacts in the basketball world. Have you been talking to other guys who are in different parts of the world about what their experience is right now, what they got going on? I know, like I said, I know you got the 4-month-old. You got a lot of other duties on your plate right now. But what's it been like trying to stay in contact with other guys that are players around the world right now?
I mean, it's difficult. I probably haven't been in touch with as much people as I probably should have, but for the guys I have talked to, they all were able to get back home. Like all the American guys I know, they was able to get back home and things of that sort. And considering, obviously, it just seems like, the whole world is just kind of on pause right now while this virus stuff is happening. But I think a lot of the guys are happy at least to be dealing with it at home versus, being stuck in a foreign country. Like they're around their family, their loved ones. So it makes it a little bit easier for them to deal with from what they tell me. So that's always, it makes sense.
Yeah. Is Perth, is it on lockdown right now? Like, are you guys, we got shelter in home situations here in the States and, school's out, everybody's doing stuff remotely, staying in their own houses, trying to avoid crowds and, the social distancing thing that has become basically the norm for everybody here. What is it like in the streets in Perth right now? Is it the same?
Yeah, fairly similar. I can't remember if it's all the jobs, but for the most part, I'm pretty sure everybody that's working, they work from home. I think they just changed the rule today where you're not allowed to be with more than 2 people or something like that at a time. And the being in the house stuff, that's almost a given to where pretty much the only place you can go is like the grocery store or maybe to get gas. But they're really trying to enforce making sure people aren't in, groups of more than 2, like if you're not with your immediate family or something like that. I think they said they're going to start flying like drones and stuff just to, I guess, check certain areas to make sure people are abiding by those rules. So they're trying to crack down. It's getting a little bit more serious now.
Yeah. So when you mentioned that you applied for citizenship, how does that work for you as a professional player who's still living there? There are no restrictions for you in terms of whether you could leave or come back, but you have family that has to be accounted for, your wife or your girlfriend and your child. How does that work just from a standpoint of where you could go or what you could do as an American citizen?
You're talking about like just for this year or in general?
Just this year. Just now, just for right now. If you wanted to say you wanted to try and get home to see your family here in the States, how would that work?
So yeah, if I wanted to go, I'm free to go back home, but it's just for them, America's not going to let them in, but they'll let me in. So, it doesn't make any sense at this point to go out there as bad as I want to see my family back home, because Australia also closed their borders for the next 6 months, I believe, to any foreigners. So if I'm free to go home, if I go, I'm not getting back in here at least for 6 months or something like that.
Gotcha.
Unless they change that rule. Right.
That's got to be something too. Things that you probably never imagined you'd be dealing with, given where your career has taken you and now what this virus has done, this global pandemic has done to the entire world. I wonder what that's like to be in touch with what's going on here, but obviously have a focus on what's going on in Australia because we don't know how this plays out. Nobody knows where we're going to be a month from now. If you'd have told me, at March 31st, I'd be sitting at home and everything would be shut down, I wouldn't have been able to wrap my head around it. And now it's the only thing I can comprehend going forward. I don't know where we come out of this at or how we move on from this. Have you given any thought to where your career goes in the coming years? I mean, there'll probably be opportunities for you to play in a lot of different places, being the champion and the MVP that you've been in the NBL. Have you thought down the road at all about where your career goes?
Yeah. I mean, it's something I think about each year. Obviously the goal is to, if I can, ever get back into the NBA, that's always the first thing I would do. But as far as other places go, like, I'm always open to different opportunities. But I got one more year on my contract here in Perth because I had signed a 3-year 2 years ago. So this is my last year coming up. And,
Right.
It's especially like you said, given some of the success I've had within these past few years, I think it'll open up some doors. But I kind of just, take it one day at a time. I can't, as much as I think about, okay, I could play here, I could play there, like, it doesn't mean anything until your agent comes to you and tells you, he has some offers for you. So I kind of, fantasize about it a little bit, but then I wait to see what he has for me as well.
Yeah. Last thing, and I, like I said, I appreciate you, Bryce, taking the time. I wonder what this does, what coming out of this global pandemic will do to the international basketball scene for American players. Will they be apprehensive maybe about making some of the moves they've made in the past, or will the experiences that you've had give you the confidence to know what can be done moving forward in what will be a changed world for everybody, in every business, in every sense of the word? How eager do you think young guys will be to go take that risk overseas and to go play and forge a career elsewhere coming out of this COVID-19 situation?
I mean, in my opinion, I don't think players will look at it as a risk because it's not like it's, specifically just hit overseas. I mean, it's hit the entire world. So,
Yeah.
If you're looking at it as a fear of something like that happening, again, it's like no matter where you at, it's as good a chance as any, no matter where you are. So I don't think that should really be a fear because, again, this is unprecedented. I try to think of, when has something like this ever happened before to try to, make some type of comparison, but there is none. And, this isn't really something you can kind of prepare for. And I don't think a pandemic like this is something you should have in your mind as for what's making you determine whether you play ball or not, considering it affecting the whole world. So I don't think they should overthink it.
Got you, man. Listen, I appreciate it, Bryce, and take care of yourself and your family over there in Perth, man. We hopefully we get a chance to see you back. I watch the NBL highlights all the time. Bo Estes, who works with us at NBA TV, does those highlights, so I get a chance to see him and get familiar with what y'all got going on over there, man. So yeah, it's enjoyable to see you having all the success that you're having over there, and hopefully, everybody comes out of this on the other side. And who knows, like you said, that citizenship over there might lead to some opportunities in international basketball. Maybe we see you down the road in some Olympic or World Cup competition, man. It'd be great to see you doing that.
Yeah, for real, man. Time will tell.
All right. Thanks, Bryce. Appreciate you.
All right. Have a good one.
Appreciate Bryce Cotton joining us. You hope that he and his family are certainly taking care of themselves and staying safe in Perth, Australia, as they fight through however long this global pandemic continues to affect us. As mentioned earlier, we also get a coach's perspective. David Gale, who's in Germany, but whose family is stretched around the globe. He's in one spot. His wife, as he'll mention, is in another, giving you another seriously sober view of how we're all affected by something that nobody saw coming in this global pandemic. As mentioned, we're trying to get our hands around this global pandemic and how it's affecting people in the basketball world around the globe. And David Gale is joining us now on the Hang Time Podcast, head coach at Porsche BBA in Germany as we speak. And Coach, how you doing first and foremost? I hope you and all your loved ones are safe.
Doing good out here, trying to keep busy, but a little bit tough to do it at the moment, but doing well out here.
Yeah, it's such a, I mean, I know as a coach and as a longtime coach, you've been all over, you know, the NBA, you've worked in different leagues around the globe. And it's such a regimented lifestyle. For myself as well, even just as a member of the media, I'm thinking how used to the basketball schedule I am. I'm in the start of April. I know the playoffs are coming in a couple of weeks. So my life, my family, my wife, my kids, they all understand what our schedule is. And I'm curious as to just what a complete and utter disruption to your normal schedule this global pandemic has to be.
Well, I guess I can give you just a snippet of where we were in the season. I'm currently a head coach, the top under-19 team here in Germany, and assistant coach with our Bundesliga club, which is the top league here in Germany. Mm-hmm. So with the under-19 team, the playoff brackets had just come out, and we were set to try and go win a championship as the number one seed in the country. Mm-hmm. And with the Bundesliga team, we had about, I believe it was 10 games left, and we were second place in the entire league, right behind Bayern Munich. Mm-hmm. So for all of that, you've prepared from basically last May, building your roster, recruiting your players, getting guys in here, convincing. We've got a bunch of American youth players here that have, American soldier fathers, and convincing them to stay rather than maybe go to the high school in the U.S. or move to a different country. And you've built that for an entire year, and all of a sudden it just, right when you're ready to go after what you've been building towards, it all comes to a halt. So wow. That's kind of what it felt like here. All of a sudden it just ends.
Yeah. From a just a living standpoint, what has the change been like, in terms of you go from being able to move around and do your normal business to lockdown? And Germany, correct me if I'm wrong, has been ahead of the U.S. in terms of dealing with this.
Yeah, so I can just tell you, we had our last game on March 8th, and then we had a player in the youth program at the younger age group. Someone in his family tested positive on March 10th, and basically from March 11th on, we've kind of been at a standstill. So to go from being involved in anywhere from 2 to 4 practices every single day with the different clubs to trying to organize one player at a time to meet with them outdoors and get some sort of cardio and plyometric workout in has been a very different lifestyle. But here in Germany, they've had, you can't go outdoors unless it's a family member or one other person. And that's been going on for about 2 weeks now.
Okay. Wow. So you guys are at least able to stay in touch with your players and try and coordinate some sort of activity for them?
We've been able to, myself and our strength coach, we've been able to coordinate activity for them, but it hasn't. I apologize for my dog in the background there.
No problem.
But it's been no basketball activities. Germany has shut down every indoor basketball court, every playground. They have tape around the playgrounds. So we've been able to stay in contact through video chats or text messaging or different group chats we have. But other than one-on-one, outdoor cardio workouts, we haven't been able to do very much.
Sure. So I know how serious it must have been, obviously, when they shut things down in Germany. I was on set on the night that Rudy Gobert's information came out, and they halted the games and suspended the NBA season, which up until that moment that I walked into the studio and we got word of that, the coronavirus pandemic was something that was in my, I seen it on the news, kind of understood, all right, this must be pretty serious. It didn't hit me until that night how truly serious it was for the league to shut down. You understand the expanse of the NBA. That had to shock, I'm assuming, everybody else in the basketball ecosystem as well, when you look up and say, oh, goodness, the NBA is shutting down indefinitely.
Absolutely. I think that was a definite, I think, a wake up for the rest of the world. I know, people in the NBA have kind of said, everyone to an extent should thank the first players who tested positive, because it really made everyone realize how serious this was. But I still remember where I was sitting here prepping for our playoffs, and I saw it pop up, the notification from ESPN that. And I reached out to some of my friends that, front office people, different coaches around the league. And just, as soon as that happened, it kind of became much more real, I think, to everybody.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Coach. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say that it just, until the NBA postponed the season, other leagues around the world didn't really follow until they saw the NBA do it.
Right. You mentioned conversations with other people. I mean, everybody is so interconnected, globally in this basketball world. What have some of those conversations been like in terms of, the disruption, as I mentioned earlier, to everybody's way of doing business? Like, this is a very specific time when we get to March and April and early spring leading up to the draft. How has that disrupted, do you think, everybody's way of doing the business of basketball that doesn't get seen in the public? All of the work that goes on now behind the scenes to prepare for whatever the next event might be, the draft, summer leagues, the restart of whatever season, wherever you are. How much of that do you think is being completely transformed by this pandemic and the shutdown?
Well, I can tell you, I've started to. I think every young coach, especially, and then, for example, for myself, who I was in the NBA for over a decade, and then I've now been overseas for a couple of years, and the goal is always to get back home. So you kind of have your off season planned out and different events, and I've talked to trainers, guys who work out players before the pre-draft, and that's completely on hold. So you have to think about their lives, or they count on this time, and that is completely put off right now. All the guys who would be in LA or New York or Chicago working out, and then the draft. You don't know when the draft's going to happen. If the league ends up getting pushed back to maybe September, as it's been talked about, the entire timeline of people being able to be hired for next season, players' contracts, how does that work? Coaches who currently have contracts that only go until June 30th on these large staffs where it's already been discussed about cutting salaries. Would teams cut coaches in the middle of a season just to save money? Different leagues start up at different times. So would the European League start back up next year if the NBA season is still in the season before, and colleges haven't had the same turnover because they don't want to let people go, or it kind of throws everything off at every single level.
Yeah, it's such a strange thing to wrap your head around. I was thinking about how this specifically affects players. The high school kids who are making college choices, the college players who are deciding whether or not they want to stay in school for another year or want to put the names into the draft. does it take the evaluation process for everybody and throw it into a disarray? Because I don't know how you would properly evaluate anybody without the pre-draft camp and without some of that person-to-person contact that normally goes on leading into that process.
Absolutely. I mean, I've had that discussion with some of my coaches over here, my assistant coaches over here, who don't know the process as well. But when I was in Toronto, I was very much tied in with the pre-draft process and the workouts, and it's a multi-million-dollar decision every time you draft a player. So can you really make that choice when you haven't met the player in person? Can these players make their decisions about staying in or leaving the draft? We had a discussion the other day. Is it going to make will more players go back to school, and will it make college a better product next year? Will it kind of make the draft class next season that much deeper and maybe affect? We have a player here who would be eligible for the draft for 2021, who won the Basketball Without Borders Global Camp MVP this year. So if these players all go back to school, would it make his draft class that much deeper and affect his draft stock? So it's just a trickle-down domino effect. But as you said, I'm not sure that teams can make their decisions without the full evaluation period. At the same time, I don't know how that can possibly happen with the situation right now.
It's just like I said, it's really been – it seems like it's been so long, and it's only been less than a month that everybody's dealing with this too. It's, when you have everything shut down at once like that, it just is such a jolt to the system. I was thinking about the NCAA tournament. It's normally what we'd be focused on right now, and of course that's been canceled. So we don't have that as kind of an outlet to even digest while you're dealing with some of this other stuff. I don't know how this colors the future, because we don't know how this is going to end. But do you think in a league where for years David Stern and now Adam Silver, they've always been at the forefront of trying to expand the game globally and to make it a truly global game, does this affect the global impact that the league has? Like, do you think there are more players who will be prone to stay where they are, to stick closer to home, to not go across oceans and not go to the other side of the world to pursue careers or their playing opportunities based on what's going on right now with the global pandemic?
It's a good question, and it's made us we have a couple players right now who are in their first year in Europe as Americans who I think have contemplated or have a very good opportunity to maybe get onto a summer league roster and then maybe two-way contracts or end of bench spots. For example, Royce O'Neal played in this program a number of years ago and now just signed to a big contract.
Right.
So guys like that, I think, we looked at it from that side. Are they going to be more prone to maybe stay and do the G League if they don't get an opportunity to have an NBA contract simply because they're so far away from home when they leave? And I think vice versa, the younger guys, from the guys that we have here, I don't think it would affect the younger guys as much contemplating going to the NBA, because it's still such a goal that all these players have. And it's a league that everyone kind of looks to, especially when you're a younger player, to say that's where I want to be. You just the marketing aspect of it and the skill level is just, I think, so much further along than the marketing and the product in Europe. It's not to say the basketball is any worse here, because I think there's a lot of things about the basketball here that are better. But as far as I can tell, I don't think that it would affect players going overseas. I do think it might affect Americans coming over to Europe, though.
Really?
I just think that's the mindset of American players. It's they come over here sometimes as a last resort, where the European guys, most of them, the younger ones, are aiming for the NBA.
Right. Right. You mentioned the difference in terms of some things that you think are better in the system overseas. What specifically do you think is more beneficial? And you would know, you've coached and worked in player development. You would understand exactly what the merits of each system bring.
To me, coming over here and seeing the willingness of the players here just to play together and move the basketball from a young age. I think, I'm a product of the AAU system and travel ball and ABCD camp and all that stuff. I was the age group, the year that Lenny Cook and LeBron went head to head at ABCD camp. I was that year. I was at that camp.
Oh,
so,
wow. Okay.
Just that whole, one-on-one and the mentality of those coaches. I've been removed from it for a while, but you don't see that here at a young age. Mm-hmm. So I think the kids here are taught very early on to play as a team. And as you get up to the better levels, the Bundesliga here in Germany and then EuroLeague as the highest level in Europe, you see just better teamwork, better ball movement, more focus from a young age on really the basic skill set and building from there. So to me, it just the basic product is better. Now, the NBA has better athletes. You've got the spacing aspect and the analytics is ahead of the European game. Mm-hmm. But I do think that the teamwork and the creativity in offense, you see it now. A lot of coaches have some of the best ones. Quinn Snyder, was over here, and he's implemented a lot of the stuff from over here into what the Jazz do. And you see the better ball movement offenses have a lot of aspects of what the European teams do.
Got you. And I noticed, even watching Luka Doncic this year in Dallas. And Rick Carlisle's one of the best coaches, obviously, to ever do it. You could see the influence of maybe how they play, how they operate around Luka, and those influences are very strong. For years, Greg Popovich and the Spurs have been ahead of the league in terms of playing that style, and maybe that lends itself to the collaboration in coaching. I know all of these coaches are crossing oceans at one part or another of the season. Of the year, really, the calendar year, to exchange ideas and to work on some of these things. Do you think a time like this, when everybody has to actually stop and reevaluate, is beneficial? Because that was the one thing I thought about, is that if everybody is stepping back and taking a deep breath, that means everybody's analyzing and evaluating how they do things and maybe rethinking some things at a time when normally we don't. I mean, everybody's usually running on that wheel where you don't have time to stop and really take a breath and examine the game top to bottom, how you operating, the efficiency of what you do for everybody.
Yeah, I think I was actually thinking about that today, as a matter of fact, that generally in the off season, the small window you get, you don't want to think about basketball as much as you possibly can. You want to spend time with your family and you want to relax. And the timing of this and what it seems like is going to be the length of this, I think it's an opportunity where a lot of people are really going to, you see it already with online coaching clinics and free tutorials and teams and different people from different walks of life and different areas of basketball doing Zoom, Instagram live chat sessions and sharing them. And I do think it's in a way, it could be very beneficial because people are just sharing ideas in ways that they haven't done before. And if you really want to use this time to your advantage, you can look at what you do and look at what others do better and try and create some sort of new game plan or tweak what you do. Because there's just so much information being shared at the moment that it could be a time you see some great ideas coming out in the next couple of years, and maybe people look back to say this is when it happened.
It's such a strange time, Coach. I know for you and for everybody involved, not just on a basketball level, obviously, but a human level. You got I think about my dad who's, in his 70s, and you think about all these other people and how they're affected. It kind of takes some of that narrow focus that we have this time of year in March and April of an NBA season or a basketball season, wherever you are, and it places the emphasis on so many different things. So I'm sure, you've got all of that to handle, as well as your responsibilities with the team and coaching those two teams. So continued safety and to you and your family and everybody you're involved with over there. And I don't know where we come out of this, but I certainly hope we come out of it with some fresh perspective for everybody involved in it.
I would agree with you there. Everyone should be focused on their family at the moment. Just to share one little thing, my
Sure.
wife and I have decided that we've kind of taken care of our stuff here. We've taken our time to get everything situated, and we decided because of how the age of our parents and taking care of family at the moment is the most important. Where she's going to head back to Toronto to be with her parents at this time. As you see, if things go bad, they go bad very quickly with a lot of people. So we've decided that, we know we love each other and we're going to take care of ourselves. And we think it's more important to be with our parents at the time than necessarily to stay here in Germany. So I will be here handling my business and she will be in Canada. But, I think everyone needs to take care of their own situations at the moment and really worry about family first. And then, and if I were to give advice to people, it would be stay inside, because the more we stay inside, the sooner this can be over for everybody.
No doubt about it. David Gale, thank you, Coach, for joining us. And we hope everybody, like you said, does the right thing and takes care of their family first.
Thanks, Eku.
We can't thank our guests enough. Bryce Cotton of the Perth Wildcats and Coach David Gale, who's over in Germany at Porsche BBA, joining us here on the Hang Time Podcast to really just put a human face and sound to what's going on in the basketball world and in our world in general. I mean, a complete shutdown of life as we know it, and it certainly has its effects on us in the basketball ecosystem. So appreciate those guys joining us. We are committed, obviously, to giving you new content throughout the course of this global pandemic. It's not what we're going to be used to here on the Hang Time Podcast, but it'll certainly be pertinent and timely information about what's going on and where we're headed. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you for listening as always, and we'll see you right here next time on the Hang Time Podcast.
This one is done, but in case you want another one, here's the links to all the fun from Sekou Smith's Hang Time Run. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, NBA.com/hangtime, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, Hoops fans.